few weeks ago, one of my best friends told me that I have resting murder face. So I said, like, I just murdered someone and now I'm taking a rest? And she said, no, you always look pissed off like you could murder somebody at any minute. Was I insulted by this comment? Did I take offense? No, I did not. Because resting murder face is a good thing. It's in my DNA. My mother had resting murder face. My grandmother had resting murder face. My aunts all have resting murder face. Because I was raised by a long line of what I like to call the most uptight, paranoid, and anxious bitches in America. Who taught me that the world is a very dangerous place filled with nothing but liars, rapists, and murderers. And the only way to protect yourself is to look and act more crazy than the murderers. So, resting murder face is a good thing because it's a preventative. When I was 6 years old, my mother specifically taught me how to not get murdered as soon as I started kindergarten. Rule number 1. Never leave your chocolate milk unattended at recess. Because you might get roofied by one of the other kids. Every evening at our dinner table, my mother would regale us with the latest news bulletin that she had heard earlier that day about some girl who went missing, or drowned, or was otherwise found dead in a ditch. It was always a ditch. Our bedtime stories were usually about some poor girl whose car ran out of gas in the woods, she had a flat tire, or maybe she just went to the mall by herself and she wasn't paying attention when Jack the Ripper followed her out to the parking lot. And the stories always ended in the same way. Dead in a ditch! Then she would turn out the lights and say, "Night." My mother's theory was that you should always keep up on who's getting murdered, where they're getting murdered, and why they're getting murdered, because if you know these things, then hopefully you won't get murdered. Like when I was old enough to walk to my friend's house by myself, my mother warned me to always look underneath the parked cars because now murderers were hiding underneath the cars and they would grab children by the ankles and then kill you. When I got my driver's license, my mother actually taught me how to change a tire, check the oil, and put brake fluid in my car so that hopefully I would never have to call AAA and risk getting murdered by a tow truck driver. It was like living with Keith Morrison for days. So, you would think that I would have become a strong, courageous woman brimming with self-confidence. And nothing could be further from the truth. Because even though my mother filled my head with all kinds of safety warnings, I still got mugged at gunpoint when I was 28 years old in the middle of New York City on a Sunday afternoon. Broad daylight. But there was a very simple explanation, which was I had let my guard down for 1 minute. The reason why, the night before I got mugged, I drank 5 Long Island iced teas. Because my boyfriend, Steve Shirley, decided to take me to the Hard Rock Cafe in New York City and then tell me he was gay and was breaking up with me. And I thought, oh boy, there's no way I'm going to be able to talk him out of this. So he left. He left the Hard Rock Cafe and I stayed and proceeded to drink 5 Long Island iced teas after that. If you don't know what's in a Long Island iced tea, I'll tell you. It's a delightful little cocktail made with vodka, rum, gin, tequila, and triple sec with a splash of Coca-Cola just to lull you into a false sense of security. square, and I was almost there when suddenly some guy on the street grabbed me by the waist, and he pulled me behind a building, and he put a gun to my head, and he told me to shut up and give him my wallet and my jewelry, which I did immediately. But the first thought that popped into my head was, oh my God, my mother's gonna kill me. I tell her this. I didn't have my murder face on. Now, the worst thing about the whole ordeal was I was an out-of-work actor, so I had no money, and my jewelry was all fake from the Dollar Tree store. So I didn't mind handing it over, but I did mind the gun to my head and being told to shut up. I thought that was pretty rude. A few years after that, I got married, I moved to LA, and I had a daughter of my own. And that's when I immediately turned into my own mother, warning my daughter about the exact same things that my mother said to me. Until my husband called me a psycho chicken and told me to calm the fuck down. And I really tried. But then I discovered the Oxygen channel on TV, and I got addicted to watching all those true crime murder shows. They're very educational because it's all murder all the time, 24 hours. And if there's one thing I learned from watching these shows, is that the nicer you are, the more likely it is that you're gonna be murdered. Because whenever they interview the victim's family, they always say the same thing about the dead guy. He was so nice. Never heard a fly. Nobody ever says, thank God somebody murdered Bob. You're such an asshole. And this is why you need a good murder face. So, I actually study all these shows in case there are any new murder techniques that I might need to warn my own daughter about. Because even though she's 28 years old now and she lives on her own, I still text her every morning and remind her not to get murdered. Because unfortunately, she is what I call a smiler. Very friendly and outgoing. It's ridiculous. No resting murder face at all. She looks just like her father. He's very smiley too. They just go through life looking all chummy and relaxed like a couple of idiots. Now worse, they think I'm the crazy one, so I can't even get through to her. Until this Mother's Day when I took drastic measures. When she took me to brunch, I confiscated her iPhone, and when she went to the bathroom, unbeknownst to her, I downloaded this app called the Neighborhood Crime Watch, which alerts you every time somebody in your neighborhood is getting murdered. Bing, bing, bing. I figure if she hears enough bings, maybe she'll take me a little more seriously. But so far it hasn't worked. She ignores it. And to be honest, it's a little disconcerting because she only lives about 5 miles away from me, so I put the same neighborhood crime app onto my phone, and now I'm getting all the same bing, bing, bings too. And it seems that most people in our neighborhood are getting murdered at Whole Foods on Wilshire Boulevard. Usually in the parking lot. Never gets murdered at Ralph's or Vons. Just Whole Foods. So I tell my daughter, don't go there anymore. Just take Uber instead so you don't have to park your car. But then I heard on the news that Uber drivers are now murdering their passengers. I did, however, convince her to let me follow her on Instagram, which was a bad idea because in every picture she's fucking smiling. She wouldn't know a good murder face if it hit her on the head. I don't worry so much about my husband getting murdered because A, he's a pain in the ass, and B, he goes to bed every night at 9 o'clock, which is too early to get murdered. But But my daughter is out gallivanting till all hours of the evening. So, what is a paranoid, anxious mother supposed to do? So take my advice, people. Next Mother's Day, tell your kids, forget the flowers, forget the brunch, and just show your mother that you know how to make a good murder face.
Seriously, would it kill you?